Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. At a cost of what is likely to turn out to be around £200,000, Humza Yousaf, the Saturday girl, and his whole entourage of hangers-on and yes-men and lickspittles will be flying out to Dubai to go to COP28. They're not invited, they have no official standing, and so they'll be looking for opportunities to talk to chefs and chauffeurs and to try and make it look as though they're there to do something important. Now, the irony, of course, is they're going to a place that produces a lot of oil. The Middle East there, lots of oil up in the Gulf states. Not very good for the environment. And yet they're deemed to be an excellent place to host environmental issues. But, of course, the problem is that how much of the environmental problems are caused by Scotland? Well, the answer is it's so small, it's immeasurable. And yet he feels able that he needs to go there and show the world what Scotland's doing to lead the way in reducing global pollution. It's mind-numbingly small. You'd need a scanning electron microscope to see what Scotland produces. But we'll have a look at this to see the sheer hypocrisy and expense he's going to speak to people who have no influence because he's not getting anywhere near the top table, and to see actually the real reason he's going. Here goes. Now, of course, the real reason he's going is he wants to go and speak to these people who won't speak to him, to try and beg from them money, which they won't give, so that he can give it to what he calls the countries most affected by climate change. What he actually means is Muslim countries. Let's make no bones about that. But the irony is that Scotland has contributed virtually nothing to global climate problems. Literally nothing. It is that small, it cannot be measured. And yet he goes, oh, look at us, look at what we're doing well, blah, 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 blah. But when you look at the numbers, it's a pointless exercise. And these people aren't going to talk to him anyway. But it's the sheer irony when you look at the actual numbers involved, which we will, because it goes to show that the man has no idea what he's doing. Anyway, Humza Yousaf may as well stay at home unless he is going to face up to the real dangers at COP28. The real dangers being, of course, the truth. He doesn't want people to know the truth. It goes against all their agenda. From the awful air quality in Indian cities, graphically illustrated in the Cricket World Cup, to the huge increase in CO2 in China, India and the developing world, there are big questions for the world's leaders to address. If you actually want to do anything, what you need to do is say, right, we're going to charge a CO2 tax. And that is, we look at how much CO2 you have produced as a nation, and we add that to the cost of your products. Wow, China becomes very, very expensive. Humza Yousaf and the Saturday girl, along with their Scottish hangers-on, will be among the thousands of delegates flying into one of the world's most polluted major cities to discuss the dangers caused by global warming. But will this daring duo of idiots actually address any of the unpalatable truths behind the climate crisis? And of course the answer is no, they won't. They're incapable of doing that. Firstly, she doesn't have a pair of balls, but neither does he. And secondly, she's too stupid to understand the full implications. Don't forget, this is the girl that couldn't even finish her own work the other day. And he's just naturally too stupid for anything. So yeah, you got these two idiots flying all the way to Dubai, business class, quaffing champagne, eating caviar, all at the public expense, and going, hey, when we get there, we're going to speak to all these important people. No, you're not. All the important people will be in the big tent. You'll be outside with the guys picking up the camel shit. Because that's all you're fit for. Anyway, firstly, of course, is the fact that the United Arab Emirates is hosting COP28 is already causing something of a controversy. The summit is being chaired by Sultan Al Jaber, head of the state-owned company, which is on track to increase production from 4 million to 5 million barrels a day by 2027. By contrast, Britain's entire North Sea oil fields produce 1.3 million barrels a day. If, and they say it's a big if, the First Minister is actually allowed to have a chat with the chair of the summit, or indeed any of the Gulf state rulers, and there's no reason for them to do so. He's not even a delegate, he's just a hanger-on. He's not even a hanger-on. He's not even a hanger-on's hanger-on. He's just somebody who went along for the ride to feel important. That's all he is. He's not a national leader. He's not an accredited diplomat. He's not an expert. Nothing. He's just some bloke from Glasgow. Anyway, he says, will he bring these matters up? Probably not. Instead, he is promising to call on fellow Western leaders to provide millions of aid for funding those countries worst impacted by climate change. Why Western leaders? Why not the Arab states that are causing most of it by pumping out all the oil? Why not China, which is the biggest polluter in the world? Why not get China to pay for this? Oh no, that's difficult, isn't it? Because that would be way easiest. Got to get the Westerners and the white people to pay, because he hates white people, doesn't he? We know this. Anyway, this highlights another issue that is unlikely to be addressed by Yousaf or the Saturday Girl, who is actually responsible for more than the 38.5 million tonnes of CO2 that was pumped into the Earth's atmosphere in 2022. Here's a clue. It certainly isn't the United Kingdom, which accounts for less than 1% of global emissions. Now, it accounts for less than 1% of global emissions, of which Scotland is at most 20% of that 1%, at most, and probably less, probably nearer 10% of that 1%. And the amount of CO2 in the air is 0.004%, or say 0.04%. So take 10% of 1% of 0.04%, and that's the entire amount that Scotland has put into the air. Now, if you take, for example, living creatures out of that, what are you left with? Such a tiny number. Human beings, human activity, so small, can't be measured. Anyway, 1/3 of all global CO2 emissions were produced by China. 1/3 of the whole world, China. We keep buying shit off China, that's what happens. With a further 24% by the USA, India and Russia. So those four countries are what? 33, 53, 50, nearly 2/3, 60%. 60% of all the CO2 in the world, China, USA, Russia and India. Let them pay. We don't need to pay. Let them pay. 60% on those four countries. In the developed world, the US, Europe, Japan, Australia, emissions on a rapid downward trend from 1990 levels. But across the rest of the planet, as developing economies push to deliver a better standard of living for their citizens, the numbers are going in the wrong way in a spectacular fashion. And boy, are they bad. I don't know if you've seen the air quality in India with the cricket. It was awful. You couldn't see sod all. I was in Hong Kong in 2005 and you couldn't breathe then. It was lovely. It was hot. It was fine. And the air quality was so bad. It was so heavy on your lungs. Every night you came back, you felt like you'd run a marathon. It was just sitting there. I was like, it was awful. China's emissions are up 526.5% since 1990. India, 448% rise. India's CO2 emissions were nearly 2.7 million tonnes in 2022, 8 times higher than the UK's 341, while China's were 37 times higher. At COP26 in Glasgow, China and India watered down a pledge to phase out coal power. And indeed, China isn't phasing out coal power, it's still building coal power stations. China's air is yellow, and that's nothing to do with the old, the yellow man and the yellow peril and all that. There is a genuine yellow peril in China now, but it's the air. It's so filled with sulfides, with nitrous dioxide, sulfur dioxide. It's disgusting air. Did Yousaf's predecessor, Nicola Sturgeon, play any role in these crucial global talks, or did she spend the summit posing for selfies with the likes of Greta Thunberg and New York Senator Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Well, we know the answer to that. While Alok Sharma, the UK government chair of COP27, fought back tears at the last-minute appeasement of China and India, Sturgeon and the SNP were hailing the summit as a huge success because they weren't actually involved in it. They were standing outside looking through the windows. Snow on the roof, Only it wasn't snow, obviously, but, The First Minister will also be keen to talk up the progress towards net zero in Scotland. And this is where it gets humorously bad. With such measures as Glasgow low emission zones no doubt at the top of his agenda. On Wednesday evening, the air quality index score in Glasgow was 16. 16. 50 is good. If you've got 50, it's good. Glasgow's 16, a third of If you go above 50, it starts getting worse, 50 is the cut-off point on your way down. 50, good air, come down, better. Lower it is, the better the air. 16 in Glasgow. 50 is defined as good. Anyway, in Aberdeen, it was 21. In Dundee, 14. In Edinburgh, 6. 6! And they still want to bring in a low emission zone to one of the cleanest places on the planet. For what reason? Of course, we all know this has got nothing to do with clean air. It's got everything to do with money. Compare this to Dubai, for example, which currently has an AQI of 122, meaning it is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Anything below 50 is classed as good. People living in the UAE are currently being advised to reduce outdoor exercise, close their windows and run an air purifier. The most polluted city in the world, as things stand, is Lahore in Pakistan, with an AQI of 376. And the Pakistani in the Pakistani in Edinburgh says that Edinburgh's got bad air at 6. Well, if he went to his home nation, it's 376. This is followed by Delhi with an AQI of 368. Any score over 300 is classed as hazardous. These are all unhealthy places, and he thinks reducing Edinburgh from 6 to, 5 is going to be in any way helpful. The man's a moron. Anyway, anyone who's been following the Cricket World Cup will be acutely aware of the awful problem of air pollution in India, especially in the big cities, and at times the players have been struggling to breathe on the pitch. After South Africa beat England in Mumbai last month, star batter Joe Root said, "It just felt you just couldn't get your breath. It felt like eating the air. It was unique." The AQI in Mumbai that day was above 500. 500. But yeah, he's going there. He's talking about, oh, look, we've got to reduce the air quality in Aberdeen from 6. What a shitbag. He has no idea whatsoever, has he? Coming up. So you go, a couple of £100,000 being wasted so that a moron can fly to Dubai with his current squeeze, the Saturday girl, and the hope of talking to some strangers who don't really want to talk to him. I think the only reason he's bringing Mary McCallan is he can try and offer her for a night with one of these sheikhs in response to, maybe having a quick 10 minutes conversation. Yeah, you can have her. I brought her for you. Now, can we have that conversation? And that'll be about it, because that's all she's fit for, going with him there. They're not going to be talking to anyone important, because they're not important. What a waste. What an absolute waste. Anyway, stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it has been enlightening. It's certainly clear that it's a waste of time, effort and money, isn't it? Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and let's hope that something terribly untoward happens to them when they're over there. Bye.